Ahsoka episode 5, long awaited episode. We've been talking about, there's been some rumors out there and some like spoilers, and I didn't check them. But after the episode ended, I was told of what some of the ideas were that were spoiled or whatever. And I like some of the ideas people had that didn't end up coming to fruition. But my God, Ahsoka episode 5, yo, the first half of this episode is going to have people talking. The first half of Ahsoka episode 5, to me, blew away the entire sequel trilogy and was probably the best piece of Star Wars television ever, with the exception of maybe Mando season 2 finale. It's right up there. It's very, very close. I cannot believe how good the first half of this episode was. The second half was good too, but it was not going to be anywhere near as celebrated as that first half. Give Dave Filoni Star Wars. Dave Filoni has transcended the Force. Dave Filoni has literally unlocked the key to immortality with the first half of this episode, dude. And it just pisses me off because, my God, why couldn't he do the sequel trilogy? This, and you know how much I like Force Awakens when I first saw it. This episode, the first half, blew away Force Awakens. So, before we even get to this, the stuff with Anakin and her, right? The episode's called Shadow Warrior. Before the credit roll, the X-Wings show up. The ones that were, going after Morgan, they land on the planet. The one that was where they were at, where Ahsoka was at, fighting Balin. And then Hera lands, and then she finds Huyang, who's pissed because they didn't stay together, which is all he wanted. So we then go to the world between worlds. This is where things get interesting. So Ahsoka says that Anakin looks the same as he did in episode 3. She didn't say that, but she's basically saying the same as you looked last time I saw you, which would have been in episode 3. And Anakin's like, well, you look old. And he's like, you lost the fight. I loved it. I love how blunt Anakin was here. Hayden was phenomenal here. So Anakin says he's there to finish her training, and she's all like, it's a little late for that. So the lesson is live or die, and he ignites his blue lightsaber. And then she says, I won't fight you. And Anakin goes, I've heard that before, referencing Luke from Return of the Jedi. So they start fighting, right? God, this was so badass. And it's a very well choreographed lightsaber scene. So while that's going on, Jason in the regular world notices that there's something weird about the water, and he says that he can sense the lightsabers clashing. You have to remember, Jason is the son of Kanan, who is a Jedi who died in Rebels, but he's Force sensitive, but he's also got the ability to sense not just the living Force. He can go beyond into the cosmic Force. He can hear the lightsabers as they're clashing, and nobody else can except for he notices it first. So the kids can sense other realms. And then Hera can hear it too. This was phenomenal buildup. This character of Kanan's son Jason could end up being a major player in the future of Star Wars. Why could they not do this for the freaking sequel trilogy? So Anakin, as he's fighting Hera, busts out some of the moves from the Obi-Wan fight in episode 3, the twirling behind his back and all that. So then he cuts the ground. I haven't shown you every trick yet. And then she falls down. And for once, Anakin has the high ground. Anakin had the high ground on her, yo. I love it. So then we show a live action flashback to stuff from Clone Wars. And we see Anakin there with the Clone Wars hair, fighting with Ahsoka. Right here, I'm thinking this is the best episode of Star Wars television ever. So while this is going on, we find we basically find out they're on Ryloth, and Rex is there, and the younger Ahsoka was played by the girl that played young Gamora in Infinity War. Pretty sure that was her. So Anakin, the whole thing is she talks to Anakin with the lesson being that in war, lives are going to be lost. She basically says, that this is not what she was trained to do, is kill people. But the whole lesson here is that you have to have the willingness to live or die. That's the lesson. That's what I got from it. So this is a beautiful scene. Absolutely breathtaking. This rewards you for seeing Clone Wars and Rebels. So meanwhile, while that's going on, Chopper and Hera and everybody are going over the water to try to find Ahsoka because I guess she either drowned or she fell in there. So then we go back to the flashback and we end up going to the Seas of Mandalore. Now remember, the Seas of Mandalore was not in, like, Anakin wasn't there, right? And he talks about it, he's like, I'm not there, but Ahsoka's telling him, you know. So then Anakin lights up a red lightsaber and he tells her that she has the choice. So now he literally becomes pre-armored Darth Vader with the yellow eyes and everything, fighting Ahsoka. They're having a duel. He's in the Vader suit taunting her. Like, his eyes turn yellow. And so at one point they actually show the Vader suit for like a second. First he's not in it, then they show it for like a second, and they switch to the James Earl Jones Vader voice, dude. I'm like, whoa. So he's tapping into the dark side, even beyond the grave, to teach her a lesson. It wasn't like he was really evil here, because remember, he was redeemed. So she's fighting back. She's like, I choose to live. And then Anakin smiles. His lightsaber goes blue again, and he's like, there's hope for you yet. So while all that's going on, she gets brought aboard the ship, and she's back in the real world again. She was able to come back to reality. She wakes up and finds out that she was out for a whole day. So now they're trying to find Sabine. So she uses a Force technique called psychometry, which originated in the EU, the legend stuff, where she has to figure out what happened by basically focusing on an object or a place, and then thinking about, like, basically using the Force to kind of flash back and give her the voices of what happened. It's almost like time travel, but you're not really going back in time, but you're hearing what happened in the past, because she wasn't there, she was in the water. So while that's going on, they have a problem because the New Republic's sending a fleet out there to stop them. And so Hera and Ahsoka are ordered to go back to Coruscant, but remember, they're trying to find freaking Sabine. So Ahsoka finds out Sabine went with Balin, and she's with, the whole evil crew. So Ahsoka starts to mentally, like, use the Force to contact the space whales to help guide them to the next galaxy, because the map was taken by the bad guys. So Karsten is told by Ahsoka, don't let the Republic ships approach. And he basically, like, he basically distracts them for a while, but they eventually find out what's going on. So as Ahsoka's talking to the whales, I was watching the show with somebody, and they're like, oh, it's like Gandalf talking to the eagles, because she wears the white robe, like what she wore at the end of Rebels. And it's totally inspired by Gandalf from Lord of the Rings, how Gandalf dies in the Fellowship of the Ring and comes back to life in the Two Towers as Gandalf the White, because God brought him back to life. This is a similar idea, although God wasn't the one involved here. It was just she came back because of her training with Anakin and learning the willingness to live. So the whales are going to transport them through to the next galaxy, and even the New Republic is like in awe of these space whales, these Purgles. So the episode ends. It's very similar to the end of Empire Strikes Back, where Ahsoka and Hera are saying goodbye to each other. She's kind of excited to go on this journey. Remember how at the end of Empire Strikes Back, like, Lando's in the Falcon, and then you got Luke and Leia on the ship, and they're kind of like, okay, well, we're going to continue the adventure. That's how this felt. Then they leave with the whales into the next galaxy, and that is your cliffhanger. So in episode 6 of Ahsoka, we're going into the new galaxy we've never seen before. So this show has done so much. They have increased the lore. They've done stuff that's fan servicey but interesting. They've rewarded you for watching Clone Wars and Rebels. Absolutely phenomenal stuff. I just can't put it over anymore. Some people are saying that Anakin became like the god of the Force, right? And because, she, again, very similar to Gandalf, but is that what happened? And if that's the case, then why didn't he help Kylo and them and everybody during... I still have that. Like, why, if Anakin can communicate with them, why hasn't he done it as a Force ghost? But this whole world between worlds thing may have changed everything. We'll see. They haven't explained everything yet, and we still have 3 more episodes to go. So, man, madness. This episode blew everything out of the water, dude. I cannot believe how phenomenal this was, yo. I can't believe it. We're going to be talking about this one for a while, yo. So, it's not a perfect episode at all, but the first half of it was just absolutely breathtaking. And it was basically how you do fan service, right? Dave Filoni needs to be given the keys to the kingdom because clearly he knows how to properly balance, like, fan service and fan, like, you know, pandering, if you even want to call it that, with actual storytelling and lessons and characters. You know, he's not perfect, again, but he's a hell of a lot better than J.J. Abrams, Rian Johnson, and any of those people. I mean, I think he really gets it, in my view. What did you think? Let me know. We'll talk soon.